In a small, dusty town nestled in the heart of the Wild West, lived a widow named May. She was known for her fierce independence and unwavering spirit. Before her husband passed away, they had shared dreams of building a life together in the rugged land, filled with adventure and hard work. They often spoke of the endless possibilities that lay ahead, but fate had other plans. When he fell ill and left this world, May was left to fend for herself. Though grief hung heavily on her heart, May was determined not to let it crush her. She remembered the countless hours they spent working side by side, planting crops and building their modest home. She had learned how to face challenges head-on and refuse to allow sorrow to defeat her. With each sunset, she would gaze at the hills beyond their property and think, "I am strong enough." As winter approached, the townsfolk began to whisper behind her back. "What's she thinking?" they would say. "A stone igloo? She's lost her mind." The men would laugh and shake their heads, dismissing her plan as foolishness when traditional wooden cabins surrounded them. They didn't see the vision she held in her heart or recognize the beauty in her determination. May knew that while wood could crack and splinter under pressure, stone was steadfast and resilient. Each day, she gathered heavy rocks from the nearby riverbanks and shaped them into an impressive igloo that would withstand whatever winter could throw at them. As the chill of frost crept into the air, she worked tirelessly, driven by a determination forged from love and loss. The townspeople may have mocked her now, but May's spirit shone brighter than ever as she laid each stone with care. Little did they know that her greatest challenge was yet to come. As May tirelessly worked on her igloo, the townspeople began to gather in small clusters, whispering and pointing fingers. The townsfolk were a rough bunch, accustomed to traditional ways of building and living. They valued strength in timber and firewood over the creativity of stone. May's choice to construct an igloo became a source of ridicule among them. "Look at her," chuckled Tom, a burly rancher with a booming voice. "That widow thinks she can survive the winter in a pile of rocks. What's next? A straw hut?" His friends burst into laughter, shaking their heads in disbelief. Another townsman, Jake, who had always eyed May with an unkind gaze, chimed in. "She'll be the first to freeze," he sneered. "Igloos are for Eskimos, not for us good folks here in the heart of civilization." The townspeople laughed again, their voices carrying through the crisp autumn air. As the days shortened and temperatures began to drop, the snickers were replaced by louder mockery. Women whispered to one another while hanging laundry, their eyes darting toward May's growing pile of stones. "That widow is just asking for trouble," said Mabel, shaking her head disapprovingly. "What if it doesn't even hold up? She'll be buried beneath those silly rocks." Though hurtful jabs cut like arrows, May continued to focus on her work. Inside her heart grew a steadfast resolve. She felt misunderstood and alone, but she knew how capable she was. The laughter was just noise, distracting her briefly from the purpose she held dear, survival. Despite their scorn, May envisioned herself warm inside her igloo while others battled the cold in their creaking cabins. Every stone added was a step toward proving them wrong. They could laugh all they wanted, she was determined to show them that resilience could come in many forms. With winter fast approaching, May set out each morning to gather the large stones she needed to build her igloo. The sun would barely rise over the hills, casting a warm glow against the icy ground. She trudged through the frost-covered grass, her breath visible in the crisp morning air. Each stone she found was a testament to her resilience, a reminder of her strength. The nearby hills were dotted with stones of all shapes and sizes, and May knew just where to look. She navigated the uneven terrain with care, often climbing steep slopes to find the perfect rocks. Some were big and heavy, requiring her to push and pull with all her might. "I can do this," she encouraged herself out loud when fatigue began to settle in. Her voice echoed against the silence of the wilderness, reminding her that she had a purpose. May selected each stone carefully, envisioning how they would fit together like pieces of a puzzle. She thought about how their thickness would shield her from the bitter cold. At times, she would stumble under the weight of a particularly large boulder, but each time she fell, she rose back up with even more determination. Her hands grew sore and calloused from the rough edges of the stones, yet each bruise was a badge of honor. As days turned into weeks, May's igloo began to take shape, a sturdy structure that reached high into the sky. The townsfolk continued to pass by, shaking their heads in disbelief at what they considered an impossible task. But May stayed focused on her work. With every stone laid down, she felt empowered. Finally, as she carefully placed the last few stones on top, May took a step back and admired her creation. The igloo stood proudly against the backdrop of the approaching winter sky, a symbol of her hard work and unwavering spirit. She smiled at it with satisfaction, knowing that she was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. With the igloo finally completed, May turned her attention to preparing for the harsh winter ahead. She knew that simply having shelter would not be enough. She needed provisions to survive the snow-covered months that lurked just around the corner. Each day, she created a list of essential supplies she would need: food, water, and warmth. May first ventured into her garden, where she had spent countless hours nurturing a few stubborn crops. Despite her husband's absence, she had been tending to a small patch of potatoes, carrots, and beans. With careful hands, she dug up the remaining vegetables, filling her sack as she went. "Every little bit counts," she murmured to herself, recalling how they had once shared meals filled with laughter and love around their table. Next, she made her way to a nearby stream. The water was icy cold, but it flowed freely through the land, untouched by the frost just yet. Using a large wooden bucket, May filled it with fresh water to last her through the coming weeks. She had learned to store it in tight-sealed containers that could keep the water from freezing solid, ensuring she would have enough to drink and cook with when the temperatures dropped. Lastly, May gathered supplies from her own home. She rummaged through old blankets and tattered clothes that could serve as insulation against the winter chill. She even found some coarse fabric that she could use to make a simple but effective curtain for the entrance of her igloo. Each item added confidence to May's heart as she prepared for the unknown. While others mocked her efforts, she took pride in her foresight and readiness. With every gathering completed, May felt more secure in her decision to stay strong and face winter head-on. She knew if she kept working hard and remained resourceful, she could weather any storm that came her way. As November faded into December, the first hints of winter appeared in the Wild West town with a chilling wind that whispered through the streets. The temperature began to drop sharply, and dark clouds rolled in from the mountains, bringing with them a heavy veil of snow. It started with delicate flakes drifting down, creating a thin blanket over the ground and hinting at what was yet to come. Soon, fierce snowstorms swept through the town, howling winds clawing against the wooden cabins. The townspeople huddled inside their homes, anxiously peering out at the white landscape forming around them. With each gust, they could hear the eerie creaking of wood as their houses strained under the weight of accumulating snow. "This can't be good," murmured a worried farmer named Carl to his wife as he stacked logs by their fireplace, trying to stoke warmth into their rapidly cooling home. As days went by, temperatures plummeted to alarming lows. Soon it was almost unbearable outside. The townsfolk exchanged fearful glances during their infrequent trips to gather supplies. They spoke in hushed tones about May and her stone igloo, which seemed more and more like a madwoman's folly as they faced reality. "What was she thinking?" whispered Mabel while wrapping extra blankets around her children. "She's going to freeze out there." Yet inside May's igloo, there was a different story unfolding. While others relied on creaking timber that could crack and splinter under pressure, she felt secure within her stone walls. May watched the storm from her igloo, knowing she had prepared well for this moment. But as blizzards raged on outside and food supplies dwindled in other cabins, doubt spread among the townspeople. Could they endure another frigid night? Would their homes hold against the relentless storms? The tension grew thick as fear gripped their hearts. They were starting to realize just how severe winter could be in this unforgiving land, a lesson May had already learned long before they ever considered her choice valid. As the snowstorms intensified, the temperatures in the Wild West town plummeted to an astonishing -47 degrees Fahrenheit. The biting cold seeped into every wooden cabin, making it difficult for families to stay warm. A chill wind howled through the streets, snaking around corners and rattling windows. The townspeople, once proud of their sturdy homes, began to feel the anxiety creep into their hearts as they noticed cracks forming in the wood. Inside one cabin, Carl stared helplessly at a deep fissure splitting his wall, moisture escaping from inside. "We won't last much longer like this," he grimaced, pulling his family closer to the feeble warmth of their fire. Outside, the howling winds and swirling snow added to his worry as he realized that their home was failing them. Each night felt colder than the last, and whispers of doubt filled the air. Mabel bundled her children in layers of blankets and shared worried glances with her neighbors. "What if we can't keep them warm enough?" she whispered, her voice shaking with fear. In stark contrast, May thrived amid the unrelenting winter. She sat inside her stone igloo, snug and warm against the chill outside. The thick walls of stone insulated her beautifully from the harsh temperatures that had everyone else shivering in terror. May could hear the storm's fury outside but felt secure and calm within her fortress. "Thank goodness I prepared," she said to herself, reflecting on all those long days spent gathering stones and supplies. Unlike her neighbors who found themselves battling against nature's wrath each evening as they tried to maintain heat within splintering walls, May had built her sanctuary intentionally for these moments. Outside her igloo, townsfolk continued to struggle with more severe conditions each day. With each crack heard from cabins nearby, many were forced to seek refuge elsewhere. Meanwhile, May remained steadfast in her resolve. While others faced despair, she smiled warmly, knowing she had made choices that would carry her through, choices that held true when it mattered most. The relentless winter continued its assault on the town, and the townsfolk quickly found themselves facing a dire dilemma. Each morning, they awoke to discover that their cabins had become iceboxes, the walls cracking and the floors cold as stone. Families huddled around flickering fires, desperately trying to keep warm, but the chill seemed to seep into their very bones. Carl paced anxiously in his cabin, glancing at the fissures that now marred his walls. "We can't stay here," he said with a tremor in his voice as he gathered his children close. "The way things are going, we'll freeze before the snow even melts." Mabel shivered in agreement, her thoughts racing as she wrapped her arms around her little ones. The neighborhood grew quiet as neighbors exchanged worried looks, and the weight of concern settled heavily on their hearts. "What if we tried to move to the next town?" whispered Henry, a fellow farmer, breaking the silence. "Maybe there's a place we can find shelter." But the thought of leaving their homes filled them with dread. The roads were treacherous, buried under layers of snow, and the biting winds howled like wolves. Mabel's voice quaked as she replied, "But what if we get caught out there? It could be worse than what we have now." As the days turned into an endless cycle of fear and frost, some families began to pack their belongings with trembling hands. They gathered whatever supplies they could, extra blankets, dried food, and whatever warmth they could muster. The once unshakable pride they held for their sturdy cabins was now overshadowed by despair. Meanwhile, they couldn't help but notice May's igloo standing firm against the storm, its stone walls seemingly impervious to the cold that plagued them. A mix of envy and admiration bubbled within them. Perhaps May's unconventional choice wasn't so foolish after all. As the sun dipped low beyond the horizon each night, casting long shadows across the snowy landscape, many found themselves contemplating a decision they never thought they would have to make. Would they seek refuge in May's stone igloo or risk venturing out into the unforgiving wilderness? The question lingered in the air like a heavy fog, pressing upon them as winter tightened its grip on their town. As the biting cold gripped the town, desperation grew among the townsfolk huddled in their cabins. The whispers began to change, filled with concern rather than scorn. A few families had gathered in Carl's cabin, their eyes haunted by fatigue and fear as they plotted their next moves. Carl looked around at his friends and said, "We may need to swallow our pride. May's igloo, it might be our best chance." Mabel shivered beneath several layers of blankets and clutched her children tightly. "But what if she won't let us in?" she asked, uncertainty lacing her voice. "Do you think she'd turn us away?" Henry replied, glancing toward the window where snow endlessly swirled outside. "She built that thing for a reason. It's kept her warm while our homes are falling apart." The thought took root in their minds. May had tirelessly labored on her igloo while they mocked her choices, but now they wondered if her unconventional home was a refuge instead of a mistake. "I saw her yesterday," Carl said hesitantly. "She looked so calm in there while we're battling the elements out here." Mabel sighed deeply, shaking off her feelings of reluctance. We could freeze to death before morning if we stay here. She exchanged worried glances with the other parents, who nodded in agreement. After a moment of silence filled with shared dread, Carl finally spoke up. Let's go together, he urged. If she has space for us, maybe we can weather this storm as a community. With hearts racing and breaths clouding the air from anxiety, the group made their way to May's igloo, each step crunching underfoot amidst the deep snow. They reached her doorstep just as flakes swirled around them like little stars against the darkening sky. With newfound determination, Carl knocked on the sturdy stone entrance, feeling both trepidation and hope. Would May welcome them into her warm haven? Unbeknownst to them, this moment would shift everything, from laughter at May's efforts to understanding just how strong her spirit and shelter truly were. With trepidation in their hearts, Carl, Mabel, and a handful of others pressed through the deep snow toward May's igloo. Each step felt heavier than the last as they approached the structure that had once been the subject of their laughter, now standing firm against the fierce winter storm. The wind howled around them, and snowflakes stung their faces as they neared. Are we really going to knock? Mabel asked, hesitating at the entrance. Her apprehension was palpable. What if she turns us away? It's worth a try, Carl replied, his voice steady despite his own nerves. We're freezing out here. As they stood before the sturdy stone door, a realization washed over them. They had underestimated May's resilience and foresight. This humble widow had built her sanctuary not just for herself, but for moments like this, when community needed to come together in times of crisis. Finally, with a deep breath, Carl raised his hand and knocked on the solid wall. The sound echoed softly inside, and after a moment, May emerged from her cozy haven. She looked surprised at first but quickly masked it with concern as she took in their shivering forms. Come in. Come in, she urged, stepping aside to welcome them inside her igloo. The warmth wafting from within was a stark contrast to the bitter cold outside. One by one, they shuffled in, their cheeks pink from the frost. As they settled into May's sanctuary, grateful tears filled Mabel's eyes. I'm so sorry for how we treated you, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. You were right all along. May smiled gently, feeling a wave of humility wash over her. It's all right, she replied warmly. We all do what we can to survive. Inside her igloo, they gathered close together, sharing stories and laughter amid the swirling snow outside. It was a moment of newfound unity, a lesson learned in humility and respect for each other's choices. May's igloo became not just a shelter but a symbol of strength and community spirit as they huddled together against the storm. In that space, bitterness faded away, replaced by gratitude for one another and the warmth they found together. As May welcomed the townspeople into her igloo, she could sense the warmth of community beginning to replace the bitterness that once lingered among them. Despite having faced their mockery, her heart was filled with kindness, and she had no intention of holding grudges. She offered everyone a seat on the cozy, soft patches of snow within her shelter, each spot warmed by their close proximity. Here, let me get you some food, May said with a gentle smile. She moved to her small stash of supplies, pulling out dried meats and some root vegetables she had gathered earlier. I have enough for all of us to share, she reassured them, her eyes sparkling with generosity. Gratefulness filled the air as she served the townsfolk, and soon laughter replaced the earlier tension. Carl leaned back against the wall of stone, relief washing over him as he took in his surroundings. I never thought I'd be sitting here with you like this, he admitted. You made the right choice all along. May simply nodded and replied, we all have our battles to fight. It's important that we support each other when times are tough. Her words echoed in the hearts of those present, reminding them of their shared humanity. Mabel looked at May with newfound respect, tears brimming in her eyes. I realize now how wrong we were to judge you, she said softly. You've shown us what true strength looks like, both in building this igloo and in welcoming us in. Over time, they shared stories by candlelight and learned to appreciate each other's struggles and triumphs. The transformation was palpable. The townsfolk began to see May not just as a widow but as a pillar of strength and kindness. As night deepened outside and snow continued to fall softly against the stone walls, they felt a deep sense of gratitude toward May's generosity. The warmth inside her igloo became a refuge from both winter's chill and their past mistakes, a reminder that even in difficult times, kindness could mend broken bonds and weave together a stronger community. Inside May's igloo, the atmosphere quickly transformed from one of uncertainty to warmth and camaraderie. The stone walls shielded them from the cruel winds outside, creating a cozy haven where laughter and conversation flowed freely. As the townsfolk settled in, they felt a profound sense of relief wash over them, their shivering bodies starting to thaw in the gentle warmth shared among friends. May served the food she had prepared, dried meats and root vegetables, laying out simple but hearty portions for everyone. "Eat up, it'll give you strength," she encouraged, smiling as faces lit up with satisfaction. The aroma filled the air, mingling with the soft glow of candlelight that flickered upon the stone walls. As they ate, stories began to emerge, tales of past winters, childhood adventures, and dreams for the future. Carl shared fond memories of hunting with his father, while Mabel spoke of her hopes for spring when flowers would bloom again. Each story added a layer to their newfound bond, knitting them closer together as they shared in both laughter and vulnerability. "I didn't think we'd find ourselves here," Henry remarked, glancing around at his companions. "May, we owe you so much after all we said." "It's easy to forget how tough things can be when you've got a warm home," May replied thoughtfully. "But we need each other now more than ever." Her words resonated deeply within each heart present. As hours passed and the storm raged on outside, they found comfort in each other's presence. They huddled together, sharing blankets and warmth while talking late into the night. In this moment of unity, everything seemed to shift, past grievances melted away like snow under sunlight. The igloo became more than just a shelter, it was a refuge of kindness where they learned that even amidst hardship, community spirit could bind them together. Together they realized that no matter how harsh winter may be or how deep their struggles run, there was solace in supporting one another during tough times. The warmth inside May's igloo was a testament to this newfound truth. Surviving together made them stronger than they had ever known. As spring breathed new life into the Wild West town, the harsh memories of winter began to fade. The once frozen landscape transformed into a vibrant tapestry of green as wildflowers erupted in colors across the fields, signaling a fresh start for everyone. The sun shone bright after months of gray skies, warming not only the earth but also the hearts of those who had endured a challenging season together. The townsfolk emerged from their homes, shaking off the winter blues and venturing outdoors to breathe in the crisp, fragrant air. Carl and Mabel strolled hand in hand toward May's property, looking forward to expressing their gratitude once again. They were greeted by blossoming trees and birds singing jubilantly, nature's reminder that resilience could be found everywhere. "Can you believe what we survived?" Carl said with a chuckle as they approached May's igloo, now a symbol of hope rather than mockery. May stood outside her igloo, surrounded by blooming flowers that she had planted during warmer days. She was busy tending to her small garden but paused when she saw her neighbors approach. "Come on in," she called out cheerfully. "I've been waiting to see you all again." As they entered the igloo, warmth filled their hearts, reminiscing about shared laughter and stories from those long winter nights. Their bond had deepened through hardship, they were no longer mere neighbors but friends forged in unity and understanding. Mabel looked around and smiled at May. "You taught us so much about strength this winter," she said earnestly. "We truly appreciate you taking us in." May responded with warmth, "And I appreciate each of you for showing up when it mattered most." Together they sat on the soft patches inside the igloo, sharing plans for the future, crop planting, community gatherings, and how to support one another through any challenges that lay ahead. Each conversation filled with laughter reformed past judgments into trust and camaraderie. Underneath sunny skies laden with promise, they reflected on how far they had come, from dismissing May's choices to appreciating her wisdom and kindness. Their tight-knit community was now vibrant and alive, ready to face whatever came next together, with newfound respect for each other and a deeper understanding of what it means to support one another through life's storms.